In a peaceful village named Randolph, there lived a young gardener named Lina. Her grandmother's cottage had been passed down to her, along with the enchanting garden that surrounded it. This garden was Lina's pride and joy. It was filled with vibrant roses, towering sunflowers, sturdy oak trees, and soothing lavender bushes. Every day, Lina woke up at dawn, eager to tend to her plants, prune the flowers and nurture the soil. Her hard work was evident in every corner of the garden. But Lina had one problem: she compared herself to others. She would oftentimes whisper to herself, "Stop comparing yourself to others," but she couldn't help struggling with this. The villagers would stop by to admire Lina's creation, showering her with compliments. "Your garden is magnificent," they would say. Despite the praise, however, Lina couldn't help but feel unsettled. She couldn't pinpoint why until her new neighbor moved in next door. One spring day, a woman named Iris moved into the cottage beside Lina's. Iris was elegant and graceful. She came one morning to say hello to Lina and they got to know each other. Iris also had a garden of her own. But unlike Lina's, Iris's garden was filled with nothing but willow trees. Their long, delicate branches swayed with the wind, creating a hypnotic dance as the breeze blew through them. The sight of the willows was peaceful, serene, and utterly captivating. Lina found herself mesmerized. As Lina gazed over at her neighbor's garden, she began to feel a sense of inadequacy. "Why doesn't my garden look as beautiful and graceful as Iris's?" she wondered. The roses suddenly seemed too bright, the sunflowers too tall, and the trees too rigid and unbending. Lina couldn't help but compare her garden to Iris's, and with each comparison her own garden felt less and less appealing. As days went by, Lina's frustration grew. "Stop comparing yourself to others," she whispered to herself one morning as she sat down after tending to her sunflowers. But it was easier said than done. She spent hours staring at the willows, wishing her garden had the same elegance and charm. She even began neglecting her own plants, disheartened by the idea that her garden wasn't as perfect as Iris's. One warm afternoon, as Lina sat beneath a tree in her garden, feeling defeated, an old friend stopped by. Mr. Tanner. He was a very well-known gardener, and he noticed the sadness in Lina's eyes. "What's troubling you, Lina?" he asked gently. He took off his eyeglasses and sat down next to Lina. Lina sighed deeply. "Mr. Tanner, I can't help but feel like my garden isn't as beautiful as Iris's. Her willow trees are so graceful, and no matter how hard I try, my garden will never compare." Mr. Tanner looked around at Lina's garden with a wise smile. "Lina," he began, "I've visited many gardens in my time and I've learned something important. Each one is unique. But more importantly, you must stop comparing yourself to others. Your garden reflects your journey, just as Iris's reflects hers." Lina frowned. "But her willows, they're so much more peaceful and elegant than my roses and sunflowers. I want my garden to be like hers." Mr. Tanner chuckled softly. "Why would you want that? Your roses bring a burst of color and fragrance that lifts the spirits of everyone who passes by. Your sunflowers stand tall, always turning toward the sun, radiating happiness. And this tree, it has sheltered you for years, providing strength and comfort. Iris's willows are beautiful, yes, but they are willows. They're not meant to bloom like roses, stand tall like sunflowers, or offer the strength of an oak. Just like you're not meant to be anyone but yourself. Stop comparing yourself to others, Lina, and appreciate what you've already grown." Lina thought about Mr. Tanner's words. She looked around her garden with fresh eyes. The trees she had planted years ago were symbols of resilience and strength. Her sunflowers, which she had nurtured from seeds, brightened the entire garden. The roses, though delicate, bloomed with stunning beauty and filled the air with a sweet fragrance. "But," Lina said quietly, "her garden feels more peaceful." Mr. Tanner smiled again. "That's because her garden reflects her. Iris is a calm, serene person, and she chose willows because they bring her peace. But your garden reflects who you are. A vibrant, energetic soul who loves life and color. Every person is different, and so is every garden. When you compare your garden to Iris's, you're missing out on what makes yours special. Stop comparing yourself to others and you'll see just how much beauty surrounds you." For the first time in weeks, Lina looked at her garden without the shadow of comparison looming over her. She had been so focused on wanting what Iris had that she had forgotten the joy her own plants had brought her over the years. She remembered the excitement she felt when the first sunflower had bloomed, how the first tree had grown strong under her care, and the pride she had taken in nurturing the roses. Mr. Tanner then patted Lina on the shoulder and said, "Remember, Lina, gardens like people grow at their own pace and in their own way. You need to stop comparing yourself to others and instead appreciate your journey. Focus on what you've cultivated, not what someone else has. That's when you'll truly see the beauty in what you've created." Lina nodded, feeling a weight lift from her heart. She watched as Mr. Tanner walked away, and she turned her attention back to her garden. The sunflowers were gently swaying in the breeze. The roses were in full bloom, and the trees stood tall and proud. Each plant in its own way was thriving. From that day forward, Lina made a promise to herself. She would stop comparing her garden to anyone else's. Instead, she poured her love and care into nurturing the plants she had grown, finding joy in the unique beauty of her flowers and trees. As time went on, her garden blossomed more than ever, reflecting the happiness and pride she felt inside. One day, as Iris visited Lina's garden, she smiled and said, "Your garden is so full of life. I've always admired how vibrant and colorful it is. I've wished my garden could be as lively as yours." Lina smiled back, finally understanding. "Thank you, Iris. But I've learned something important. Each garden has its own beauty, just like each of us. Yours is peaceful and serene, while mine is full of color and energy. That's what makes them special." And from that moment on, Lina never compared her garden to anyone else's again. She had learned the most valuable lesson of all: to stop comparing yourself to others and to appreciate the unique beauty of your own journey. Thanks for watching. Kindly hit the like button, subscribe for more beautiful and inspiring stories, and drop a comment below on what you learned from this story.